I don't know if you've thought about this, but I don't know if anybody else has mentioned that, but as far as I'm concerned, the very first Porsche Outlaw is Porsche number 001. It's a father and son building a car out of spare parts in a barn. This is pure hot rodding.
It's good to finally meet you. I mean, we've kind of like gone back and forth, through text, and well, we did meet once.
Yes, we did.
We met at Lufkekold,
yeah,
the previous one
number,
at Universal.
What number was that? Was that 8?
Was it 8?
I think it was 8 because it was in SoCal, and then there was one. There's been 2 since. There was Mare Island after that, and then the most recent one back at Universal.
Yeah.
So it had to be 8.
And it's funny because two friends referred us, right? When we first met, we were with Paul, right?
Yes, you were with Paul.
Yeah,
correct. Yeah,
and the second one was with
Joey Shimoda.
Joey.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh my God.
Joey.
Yeah, I just spent the last couple of nights at their place in
all right,
in the Arts District.
Yeah. So great guy.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, I usually like to go background first, but let's start with your book. I mean, tell us about your book and for those out there, if they haven't seen this book yet, why did you decide to create this book?
Well, I've done several books in the past. Mm-hmm. As a photographer. Mm-hmm. I'm always called upon to supply content for other people's work, so I'm usually the support guy.
Right.
And this came to me in a different way. It was the same publisher that I've worked with so many times, Motor Books, which is owned by Quarto, which is a universal, I should say a global publisher, right? So they've got a big group of people working around things. But they came to me and they said, hey, Mike, well, we're thinking of doing a book on outlaws. What do you think? And I said, well, that's a great, now's the time. You've got to do that. There aren't any books on outlaws. There aren't any. And they said, well, we're hoping we can really rely on you for imagery. I said, okay, that's cool. Because usually, it's usually another author or something like that. And I happened to be on a call with Tom Cotter, who I've done so many books with. He's the Barn Find Hunter. He's done, we started that as a book series, which has turned into a whole YouTube thing that's all over the place. And now he's a TV star, So but I told him about this project and he says, well, who's going to write it? And I said, I don't know. And he goes, no, you got to call him back. So what do you mean? He says, you should be writing this book. Michael, you're a hot rodder. You understand this stuff. You're a hot rodder through and through. And you're going to bring something to this book that nobody else is going to be able to bring to. And I said, okay, why not? So I reached back out to the editor-in-chief and we had a discussion and I submitted some examples. He said, because I've done work as a editorial guy, 1,500 words, 1,800 words, that sort of thing. Right. But this is 40,000 words. This is a big chunk, right? So trying to pull that out of me, I'm a visual guy. And most people know me as strictly a visual guy. So I came back and we gathered a few of my pieces and he presented them to the people above him, the people that write the checks. And we had a few conversations and then I had to create a sample chapter and I had to present to them what my take would be on this. They want, well, if we give this project to you, what's going to be different from somebody else? And I said, well, I don't know if you've thought about this, but I don't know if anybody else has mentioned that, but as far as I'm concerned, the very first Porsche Outlaw is Porsche number 001. And I looked at it's like their head exploded. And I said, what? They're like, what do you mean? I said, it's a father and son building a car out of spare parts in a barn. This is pure hot rodding. I know it when I see it. I've been around it. I've been a hot rod shooter for years. I was brought up around hot rods as a kid. So this is hot rodding. And they're like, that's the take we need. And that was the angle that solidified the deal. Right. And thanks to them, we were able to pull everything together and tremendous support team there to, it wasn't easy for me. I'm suddenly in a space that I'm not used to being in. Mm-hmm. And that was just a terrific learning experience. My admiration for authors now is like now that I am one is tenfold what it used to be. I'm so used to like creating images and saying, okay, I beat your deadline, everything's good, I'll see you later, on to the next thing. But this was something that went on for 2.5 years.
Right.
You know?
Well, the book is called Porsche Outlaws Stuttgart Hot Rods, right?
Yeah.
So that's the title of the book. So did you start with the imagery, or did you start with the words? How did you approach this?
I started with my own knowledge. I started with my own, the people I know, the people I've run into, the people I've seen through the years, and had to create basically an outline. We started with an outline, and with that outline, working with the team at Quarto, we came up with a direction for the book, how we were going to compile it, and that led us to, okay, we need an interview with so and so, we need images of this, and we were able to put the pieces together. Mm-hmm. Some of the imagery, there's quite a few images. Anything that wasn't shot by me was provided by the Porsche archive.
Okay.
So great response from them. Worked really hand in hand with us to create, because I needed to put the history in there, because you have to understand that every now and then, every few years, Porsche builds another hot rod.
Yeah.
Whether it's a 550 Spider or a 67R or a 73 RS, these things trickle down. They start as a hot rod, right, or it becomes a race car, and then sooner or later, a slightly modified version ends up in your driveway.
Yeah.
So everything that ends up in your driveway started out as some sort of racing or hot rod experiment. So we really had to pull all those things together, and we got the help from so many people to get the information. So the archive provided some really cool stuff for us.
Yeah, Porsche is really a brand that likes to do that, right? They like to sort of tease a little hot rod out there. They'll make one, and then they'll really take in that feedback, and then, as you say, it'll show up in the dealership.
Oh yeah, they love testing the waters to see what's going to work,
yeah.
And they also they see what other people. They're aware of what everyone's doing.
Yeah,
they're aware of what's going out in the marketplace. They're aware that people are building. Oh, let's start building these things and taking them off road, and then it's like, oh well, let's build a car. Like this. It seems that someone else has proven the marketplace. Mm-hmm. Well, let's build something really cool. You build a mousetrap, and then someone else builds a better mousetrap. So they're really good at building better mousetraps.
Yeah, and
at the same time being ahead of the curve when they want to be too.
Yeah, I mean, this is a beautiful book. I mean, the imagery, obviously, it's
thank you,
all your stuff. So it's great. Did you have to? Did you go into your archives for this book, or did you shoot everything?
It's a combination.
Okay.
It's a combination of my archives, a combination of brand new stuff. Once we had that outline, that defined what we had to do and how we would keep things on budget and that sort of thing. So it's Hurley Haywood did the forward for me, mm-hmm. which is great when you see a guy like Hurley, who's been the ultimate ambassador for the Porsche brand, that now has an Emery Outlaw, and he's talk about an outlaw. He's an outlaw himself. Right.
Yeah.
When you think about it, when you get to know him, and I mean, I've been behind him on the racetrack. I've been in a car with him. He seems like he's totally calm, and he could be sipping a cup of coffee, but man, that guy can drive a car.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. Yeah.
Well, tell us about like the different chapters and how you broke it down then.
Well, we started with the early history, mm-hmm. right, and then and chronicled various cars, and went into blurred lines, which is kind of like really where the cars start to, whoa, is this a race car? Is this a street car? Mm-hmm. And we broke that down. Okay. And then we got into the original Outlaw. And the original Outlaw that everyone looks at is the Dean Jeffries car.
Okay.
That car has such a story with it. He built it in 1957, way ahead of the curve. I mean, Everybody hated this car when he built it.
Yeah.
Some people understood it, and a lot of people did not.
Yeah.
And it's kind of mixed emotions about that car. Mm-hmm. Porsche crowd really kind of shunned it. Mm-hmm. Hot rod world was kind of like, well, that's cool, just park that over there.
Well, Outlaws are still sort of like, some of the purists have things against it, though, right?
Oh,
To
of
this
course.
day. Yeah. Yeah.
It's not accepted at every at every garage around the
Yeah.
around the country. It's a language you either speak or you don't.
Mhm.
There's some people that think it's just sacrilege, and it's how dare you do something like that with this beautiful Porsche?
Right.
And there is a section in there. There's a gentleman in there that I had to have that counterpoint, and I knew him personally. I said, would you please consider being in the book, because I want to have that opposing
Yeah.
force that other people understand. He would never alter his car. He would never take it to an outside shop other than a Porsche shop.
Mhm.
He would never put anything in the car that isn't Porsche
OE.
Right.
Yeah.
It's strictly by the book or nothing at all.
Right.
And I needed to put that in there to drive it home to people that would and to understand it a little bit. But the cool thing is, we all exist in the same world. Can't we all get along?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's at the same time, he also he'll look at an outlaw and go, "That's cool."
Yeah.
But would he do it? No, he wouldn't. But
Which is
that's okay.
fine. Yeah.
It's fine. Right. It's you either want to do it or you don't.
Yeah.
So which is the way it should be. It's nobody's really judging here, but a lot of people, some people will get into that, that really strong conversation, but
Right.
People are loosening up as time goes on, I think, of course we had to go into the R group. I made a really, deep dive into R group. I happened to be up near Easy, which is European Auto Salvage Yard up in Emeryville. I'm a regular there. I pop in there on the first Saturday of the month, hang out with the guys on a regular basis. They're just awesome people to hang out with. I'll cruise in an old Ford, with a flathead V8, and they're like, "Okay, cool, it's a hot rod." They get it, right? So they're like, "Park it over there, Mike. It's fine," and they don't give me any flack over that car because they get it, because they're hot rodders, and it doesn't matter if it's a Ford or a Chevy or a Porsche. It's all cool, right?
Yeah.
So, I really wanted to get their story straight and to get it right. I was overwhelmed with the open arms of the people and the members of the R group that were willing to share stories with me. And it was very important for me to make sure that was correct, because there's other things that have been written about them. There's a lot of stories about them. And after meeting some of these people, your buddy Coach,
shout out to Coach. Yeah.
spending time with him, and you get to understand their story, then you really get involved in it. And it's such a big piece of what the outlaw world is, that there's a dedicated chapter to the R group in there.
Yeah.
And just a shout out to all those guys. They make me feel
they're
welcome.
getting their kids and grandkids all involved in that. It's a family affair, it looks like.
Yeah. It's nothing. It's not going to go away anytime soon.
Yeah.
And
then you talk about the builders.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's the other thing. When you start to understand that now there's people, and we really mixed it up. We've got the casual guy that just wants to take a 924 and turn it into a Baja car and go on a race, to people that are doing this for a living now. When you have different people that are building cars like Rod and Singer and various people that are, okay, we're going to build this for you.
Right.
What would you like? I just drove past Emotion Engineering coming over here to your offices. Shout out to Joey and the boys. It's you start. It's a real deal now.
Yeah.
It's big money.
Resto mods are the thing.
Yeah, we can build anything you want. Build it, they will come.
Right.
But there's a real mix in there, and we wanted to show how vast this story is and how broad the stroke is of what's really happening with people that are building these cars and the enthusiasts, right?
Yeah.
And then we get into the people that just drive them, just want to drive the wheels off them. Nobody wants to take these things and just look at them, which I love, because if you're not driving it, I mean, it's just, you might as well have a model car. Some people can afford bigger model cars, but, and when you can get in it and drive it, I mean, that's what the experience is all about, right? Why did we go out of our way to put this in it and that in it and this in it and that in it? Because when I get behind the wheel, that makes a difference to me. And that's what this is about. So I wanted to speak to, Patrick Long, why, I mean, talk about him and his car and Patrick, I met Patrick so many years ago. I met him at Lime Rock.
Okay.
He was racing there with the Flying Lizards. And I handed him my business card, and on the business card was a Ford Tudor shot at Bonneville.
Yeah.
And he was like, "Oh, that's cool." I was like, "Okay." So years later, I bump into him. I said, "Oh yeah, here's my card." And he goes, "Oh, I know you. I've got your card. It's on my desk." I'm like, "Really?" And then we started talking about that he's got a Ford from the 30s. I can't remember if it's a 32, 34, 31, whatever it is, but it's a car that he's keeps working on occasionally, right? But that aubergine 911 that he has, that everybody knows him by now. Right. He has several different projects.
He has a nice collection.
But that car is such a hot rod. It's crazy. I mean, first of all, it screams. I mean, it's just angry, you know? And of course, he's like on the throttle. I mean, the car is all business, right? But there's so many wonderful, subtle things about the car that I think that is true hot rodding. You know, a true hot rod shouldn't be in your face. Yeah. It should be subtle. You should be able to walk around it. And every time you walk around that car, it's like little nuggets float up, right? And you go, "Oh, wait a minute. Look at that. Yeah. Oh, you sneaky guy. Look what you just did there." And it's that discovery, right, of a true hot rodder's car. And that's part of the art of it, right? And they're always proud of that when you notice that. When you notice it. And that's what I get paid to do. So but I still have fun doing that. I have fun doing that every day. So
which one was your favorite car that you shot?
Don't do that to me.
I mean, how many pages is this book? I mean, there's
230 images in there. But I will tell you a great story.
Yeah.
I will tell you a really cool story. Finding the Dean Jeffries car is a story. Years ago, I was shooting a car at Amelia Island. And we had spotted the car there, and we wanted to take it, not the Dean Jeffries car, a different car, a Speedster. Gentleman had done a wonderful restoration on it, and I found a really funky place to shoot it, real juxtaposition, glass black car. I mean, it was like liquid black, you know, it was like India ink. And I put it in this really funky place. My locations are either absolutely beautiful or they look like they could be one step away from a crime scene. So I chose one that was kind of like a crime scene for this one. And so to get that real real kind of a different look. Yeah. And while I'm shooting, I keep hearing this conversation going on, and it's bouncing around in between these buildings. And I finally said, "Jack, what car are you talking about?" He says, "Oh, the Dean Jeffries car. I've had it for 47 years. Just auctioned it off last year." I said, "Well, you and I have to talk. We have to talk." And so Jack hooked me up with the people that own the car, people that bought the car. And the car's in LA now. And I went over there to, I said, "Yeah, come on over. You can shoot it here." I told him I was doing the book. It's fine, whatever. I go over to this place, and it's in the middle of this place that's packed with cars. And I'm like, "I can't shoot this here. Where are we going to?" And the guy goes, "Well, I said, "Listen, I'm in town for a few days. Why don't I'll find a location. We'll come back. We'll get the car there and we'll work it out." And he says, "No, you don't understand. 4 o'clock, this thing's going into the Peterson. It's going to be there for a year." I'm like, "Are you going to be kidding me?" He goes, "No." And it's starting to drizzle rain, and I go, so I sent out a text and I said, I'll reveal Bruce Meyer.
Okay.
And it was, "Mayday, Mayday, SOS, are you in town? I need your help." "What do you need, baby? What's going on?" I said, "I need the roof of the Peterson at 3 o'clock. Give me 5 minutes." Young lady calls me back. She says, "Hey, Bruce Meyer just called me, and what can I do for you?" And I said that, I told her what I needed, and we literally, and outside now it's pouring rain, but it's LA, and I'm checking the radar. I'm saying it's going to stop in 15 minutes. And the car was up in the air at that point. They were still like tightening the bolts, making sure the wheels were on and that sort of thing. Right. But thank God it was LA, because the rain stops, and then within moments it clears and the streets are dry. Yep. So we had, we just had this window of opportunity. And I said, "How are we going to put it in the trailer and take it over there?" And he said, "Oh, no, we're going to drive it there." I'm like, "We're going to Okay. And so I followed them through the streets of Beverly Hills, and he's just screaming like that car. It's like it was like a blast. It was like I wish we had movie cameras everywhere going over to the Peterson,
Right.
because people were just freaked out seeing this thing on the streets. So we pull into the Peterson, the side doors open, it goes right into the elevator. We go right up to the roof. We roll it out, and I look, but now the sky is black,
Okay.
and that storm has like done a whip around.
Right.
It's coming back at us.
Right.
And we roll it out, and there's the only place that was still wet was the roof of the Peterson.
Mm-hmm.
There's shots in here. You'll see the shots.
Okay.
And
Which
the
page,
car
which page
is,
is this?
yeah, let's go to
I gotta see this.
39. Go to 39. There's this huge puddle. So I position the car
Right
in a place
front.
knowing that I'm going to get this incredible shot of the car. Let's see, where is it? Next one, maybe. There's a double page spread. I'm going to get a reflection of the car, so I position it, and everybody's like kind of walking around, and I go,
Yeah.
everybody, please, I have 14 minutes. The 14 minutes, it's going to start pouring rain. And I hustled like you wouldn't believe to photograph this car.
Mm-hmm.
Everything became very monochromatic because it was great. You can see how black the sky is.
Yeah.
And it was just that moment, right? And
What time is this?
oh, it's 4 o'clock in the
4
afternoon,
p.m.,
right?
yeah.
So we're pulling in there 4 o'clock,
Yeah.
and it's dark and dismal and great reflection, and I shoot like crazy. Then we spin it around, we put it against a wall, that other shot, and you shot the car dead on. And if you really look at that shot, if you look in the rear window, you can see all these raindrops on the back window of the car. Then took it. It started raining. I said, okay, let's move it. There was an awning up at the top there, rolled it under the awning. Between the time I started shooting till the time I was done, I swear, 14 minutes outside, and then everything else under the awning within half an hour, I'm done. I'm like, I was just like, it's hot. It's sweat. I'm like, dripping wet. I'm throwing my hands around. I'm done. Take it down to the museum. And they're like, you done? I'm like, yes, I did it. I'm just like, ah. And they go, guy goes, that was cool. I go, yeah, right? And he goes, by the way, who the heck are you? so well, I'm just a guy with a camera with a few friends. We got it done, didn't we? So that's the story behind that.
That's
shooting
awesome.
that car.
So 45 minutes, basically.
Well, I think it was ended up like 34 minutes by the time I was done with everything. But 14 minutes outside doing this, and then rolled it under the awning. Once we rolled it under the awning, I got engine shots, interior shots, frunk, and that sort of stuff. I had to. It was the only opportunity to grab it. And so I did the whole car within that amount of time.
And this is all natural lighting, right?
All natural. I'm a natural light guy.
Yeah.
It's all about, nobody lights like God, I always say. It's an expression I picked up a long time ago. And everything we do with lights, we're just mimicking what's already out there. So if you take the time and show up and you're patient, you can get some incredible stuff. Yeah.
Oh, this is awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
Fun.
That's a great shot, too.
And just a little splash of red just gave you that. I mean, without that, everything else is monochromatic, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And a little splash of it over there. So it's just...
no, it's beautiful.
Shooting cars, everybody always asks me, like, what's your favorite car? Yeah. What's the favorite car that you shot? And this brings out a good point. After shooting all these thousands of cars and these great opportunities, it's never the car. It's so much more than the car. It's the people that you end up with, talking with, hearing their stories. It's the situation. It's the backstory behind the image. It's all that the experience of being around that car that makes it. Sometimes it can be this very significant car. Sometimes it can be a not so significant car, but you can walk away with something that just, you go like, that just blew my mind. Yeah. And it's not always, okay, it's the $12 million car or the $90 million car. It can be, a 912, that's beat up and it was sitting on the side of the street and you looked at it and you just saw a little, Benton Performance sticker on it or something like that. It gives you a clue that there's something cool going on there. Yeah. And then you meet the people and you come up with a great situation. And that's what it is. Yeah. It's never specifically the car. It's a much bigger experience. Yeah.
It's a story of the car, the entire story of the car, and you're telling a story through imagery.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And then the people, the automobile is such it's the catalyst, right? It levels the playing field. You've seen it at great concours and racetracks and stuff. People are bumping shoulders, and one guy's got very deep pockets, the other guy doesn't. Doesn't matter, Yeah. They're there for one thing. They're there for the passion of the automobile. They're there for racing.
Yeah.
They're there for the experience. They're sharing something that they both really love,
Yeah.
and that's what pulls these people together. And that's what really, makes it exciting. You walk away and you go like, wow, that was really cool.
Yeah.
And you never really had a conversation about other things that are going on, but you talk about what you really love. And these are just the little things that pull us together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just the common love for the automobile that leads you there. No matter, it doesn't matter how how big your bank account is.
Well, yeah, because one guy will go on about their performance and know all the specs and and you get a guy like me, and I'm like, I may know some of that, but I'm looking at lines, and I'm looking at the way the light folds around the metal, and I'm looking at and I get down on the ground and I roll around,
Yeah.
I was always the kid that came, I'm the youngest of three boys. I was always the kid that came home dirty, and I'm still the kid that comes home dirty because I'm always on the ground, rolling around, looking for a different angle, looking for a different vantage point. And with that, there's always a challenge, right?
Yeah.
There's always a challenge. One of the things that I've always thought of, doing a car like this, being an outlaw, you have to be courageous. That takes courage to do what they did.
Yeah.
It takes courage what people do to like cut up a car and like, I'm going to turn it into a Mary Stewart car. Well, it's just a 911 SC. No, wait till I'm done. I mean, that's courageous, right?
Yeah.
Creative people are courageous. We're very tough on ourselves. We're our own worst enemy. We beat ourselves up every day. There's always, oh man, if I just had like 2 more hours, why didn't I shoot that? Why didn't I do this? That stuff will drive you crazy, right? But that courage to go out there every day and attack it and try to do the best job you possibly can every time takes a lot of positive energy and a lot of, planning. A lot of this is very random. A lot of the work that I do is very curated, I'm here today at Racer, and I used to shoot motorsports, but I'm also the guy that found out that I'm much better when I have a controlled situation. This was a little bit of controlled chaos, but I'm more into controlling. I want this here at this time, and I want it to face this way, and I want it to be like that. That's where I get into my thing. And that's all about so much planning. I just came back from Germany shooting the next design issue for Porsche Panorama magazine. I've been doing that for 5 years now, where I shoot everything cover to cover. We took significant cars from the museum up to Autostadt in Wolfsburg, Germany, and had a team of people move the vehicles around and place them where I wanted them at specific times. Our phone calls started January 8th last year. We didn't shoot until September 18th. That's a lot of planning. That's a lot of logistics. That's the type of stuff that I'm used to. I'm used to going in and doing that. And the motorsports thing is completely different. It's a different world. It's like capturing that thing that's going on right now, and how do I make that look different every time? And these guys are the guys that are really doing it, and the guys that are making money doing it. They have a way of going to the same track with the same car, but making it look different.
Yeah.
Right. That takes courage too.
Right.
But that's a whole different thing.
Yeah.
I found that I am more useful. I create better work when I have more control over it, and that's become my thing.
That's really interesting. That's one of the questions I actually had for you. Like, what's the difference between shooting a fixed event or going to an event that's happening, like a motorsport event, and having your own like controlled environment and controlling everything from the way the car is stationed and the light, time of day.
Yeah. That's a big, and there's things in your career that affect that, right? Of course, now I'm like, somebody called me somebody said this to me a while back, and they said, Michael, you're like the Blade Runner of car photographers. I'm like, really? And
that's a cool one.
Yeah. I'm like, you know what? I'm going with that.
Yeah.
I'm going with that because it works. Because I'm not the guy that has like, 8 million followers. I don't have all that, stuff going on, and I'm not running around like, here I am doing this and here I am doing that. And I want to be known for my work.
Yeah.
And I want to do my work. And I want to create the best work I possibly can for my clients. And I want to walk away at the end of the day with a feeling of satisfaction, right?
Right.
There's parts of your career that change. There's parts of your career where you're the guy that's on a ladder trying to shoot over the fence at the 24 hours at Daytona.
Yeah.
I've been that guy. There's that time when you're running around different concours with a long lens and shooting all kinds of things and going, isn't this great? Or you're going to your Cars and Coffee and you're creating wonderful stuff. And you're doing stuff that's happening or it just happens to be there. And those are what I call taking pictures. There's a tremendous difference between taking pictures and creating an image. Creating an image is the difference between being a backup singer and a front man. If you're the background singer, you know when to come in, you know when to leave, but you're not responsible for everything that's going on. When you create the image, now all of a sudden you own everything in the frame. Yeah. You're looking at the left side, you're looking at the right side, you're looking at what's here, what's there, what's that. I was a film shooter, so I have a deeper root in terms of like trying to fix things ahead of time instead of relying on post-production all the time.
Right.
Now it's a great tool to have. But if you miss the initial composition, you've already failed the exercise.
Yeah.
Right? So creating that image has everything to do with from the arrangement of which car, what time, what place, how's this, boom, boom, where I want it here, all that stuff that goes on before you release the shutter, before your finger hits that button.
The producing part. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Then you're creating an image. And those are times when you go into a situation to shoot and you're hesitant. And you walk away and you go, wow, that really would have been cool if they had just done this. Well, a lot of that goes back to courage, right? Where you kind of go like, if I had just opened my mouth. So there's that part. Then you get to that level and say, hey, do you mind if I do this? And people go, oh, okay, well, I'll do that for you. And they go, wow, they actually did that for me. Right? Yeah. So I'm talking about, I had a great experience this weekend doing a book signing and seeing much younger people and seeing the levels that they were at. Some people were at different things, right?
Right.
And trying to encourage them to go, yeah, just ask them to do that. So there comes that thing where you start to learn that people would actually do something. And then there comes the time when you walk in the room and everybody expects you to tell them what to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So there's these different levels of it that okay, you were hired to come in and take over the room. So, you have to be able to step up to that. And that takes courage too.
Were these young kids asking you for advice?
Yes.
Yeah. What kind of advice were they asking for?
Typically an open question. What advice would you give?
Okay.
So I've got to go, okay. So I usually start with, and I say there's a difference between taking a picture and creating an image, just to plant that seed in their head.
Yeah.
Because the earlier they get that, the more successful they'll be.
Right.
Right. That's the key. That's the real big thing. Yeah.
How did you get started though? What was your you just mentioned a little bit about how you grew up and siblings and stuff like that, but what got you into photography?
Well, this is my third career. There's in the beginning, I thank my dad here, who gave me two things when I was 9 years old. He gave me a guitar and he gave me a camera. I'm happy to say that I have made a living with both of them in my lifetime. I was a full-time musician for 25 years, playing clubs, singer. I was singing on jingles, full-time playing out. I was always the guy that, paid the road crew, got the phone call at 2:00 in the morning when the truck broke down on the road. So, okay, you know, they need to come tow it, and they got to take out the drive axle because it's a C50 truck, and, you know, we need a big rig to tow it and stuff like that. I was the guy I was the guy in the band that made sure that everything got to its place. Again, logistics, right?
Yeah.
You know, the road crew got there first, you know. This was back when you could make some money doing clubs, you know?
Yeah.
And you had we had a 5-piece band, 4-man road crew.
What kind of music was it?
It was like dance, you know, it was the 80s, like, you know, cover band, you know, doing all kinds of stuff. And, but before that, I had studied jazz. I have several copyrights with the Library of Congress of songs that I've written. Before that, I was an acoustic guy doing acoustic stuff.
Okay.
I mean, I was a musician who survived, which meant that you had to go through all the different stages and you had to do just about anything.
Yeah, it's impressive.
It's like, okay, Saturday I'll be there and I'll play with you and we'll do this, you know. That requires a lot of, you know, being able to be a chameleon, right? Yeah. Which is what I've really been my whole life, is saying yes to things that I probably shouldn't say yes to, you know. And then next thing you know, oh, I can make a living doing this. Oh, okay, let me see if I can do that. And then I just go down that path. I didn't go to school. I'm a high school graduate that started playing guitar, and my parents said, "Do you want to go to music school?" I said, "I'm already playing 6 nights a week. What do I need music?" You know, I was the wise ass. I was the outlaw. You know, I was like, "Hey, you know, I'm already doing it. You know, I'm fine." You know, do I regret that? Yeah, it would have been cool to have a music degree. Who knows what could have happened, right? Maybe we'd be talking about my latest Grammy or something like that. You know, but now I've photographed a bunch of rock stars too. So that's it's gone, you know, full circle the other way. It's really kind of interesting when you're sitting there talking with people. Well, John Oates is in here, you know, what an awesome guy. And, you know, we're like, I have a rejection letter from Champion Entertainment, which was owned by Tommy Mottola, who was Hall & Oates manager.
Yeah, okay.
Champion Entertainment was they were the management team for them. So that's the, you know, John got the gig. I didn't. He got a contract. I didn't. But, you know, in life, we finally, you know, we still bump into each other. We have a great time. And I got to tell you, when it comes to John Oates, he just has a way of, you know, the car, it comes back to the car. The car just levels the playing field. And he goes out of his way to make other people feel special. He's made me feel special. I know he does it with other people. He's just so down to earth and so kind and so open and generous, you know, and that's a really great thing, you know? So,
that's cool.
But so, okay, this story is my crazy past, which I've told a couple of times recently. So, now I can embellish it more. No, so I'm singing on a Chevy commercial in New York, and this producer's wife comes in, and she's this tall, blonde, Icelandic model who goes, "Hey, have you ever thought about being in a commercial?" I'm like, "Well, I'm in one right now. I'm singing you know," and she goes, No, like being like on, you know, camera. And I said, "No." You know, I said, "Look at me. I'm like you know, I'm not a tall guy. I've got a funny nose. You know, it's not me." And it's just like, no. There's this whole thing that has to do with what they call commercial print, which is product-oriented stuff. So it's not about how the coat fits. It's not about how tall you are next to the really tall model. It's about, you know, AT&T and American Express and Coca-Cola and all those things. And those people ended up all being my clients. And if you open the early Lexus LS catalogs, that was me in those catalogs. Stuff like that. The guy that would stand on the corner of in Manhattan, and a bus would go by and it'd be my face across the whole thing. It turned into, I ended up transitioning to doing that full time. Because I couldn't be out to 4:00 in the morning dealing with the roadies, and be on a set at 8:30 in the morning. I was like, well, there's good money here. So I started doing that. Started doing soap operas. I was with what they called commercial print agencies in New York. Donald Richards. I was with them. They were like the biggest for a long time. Then other ones started cropping up. Ended my print career with Ford. Ford opened up. They saw the thing was going on. They opened a commercial print division. I was with Ford in New York, and I also was with Don Buchwald agency for for television and did TV commercials and for all kinds of people, and ended up doing precision driving.
Yeah.
I worked on All My Children soap opera as various people at various times.
Yeah.
Didn't have the contract role, but I would come in to do day player things. And that's all. I'm happy to say that, I do have a small pension from the Screen Actors Guild. So at this point, things that you've done. And the whole time, now I'm in this world. Don't forget, I got a guitar and I got a camera.
Yeah.
So I've always been into the camera.
Right.
But now I'm working with these incredibly crazy, talented people that are, and everybody's interested in what time are we over, who's going to sign my voucher, what's for lunch. And I'm paying attention to, well, if that light was angled this way, and if that was that way, and I'm paying attention to composition.
We need some advice on the lights for sure.
Yeah, the interrogation lighting is a little strong today. We'll talk about that after we're done.
We wanted to actually,
but it's okay. It's a harsh look. I got it. It goes with the black wall.
Yeah.
So I started doing, and I like little detailed things so I started doing fragrance bottles.
Mm-hmm.
And I started doing, various clients and now I'm doing highly reflective, small project, little bottles and containers and things like that. The thing that drove me crazy it was like being in this room every day, because it's January 3rd and I don't know if it's raining outside. I don't know if it's snowing. I don't know if it's sunny. I don't know what's going on in the world.
Yeah.
And I love being outdoors. Right. So I'm doing this and I'm having fun and I'm starting to develop, making money doing it, and I'm transitioning to the other side of the lens. Now I'm behind the lens and I'm doing my thing, and I end up buying a Porsche from Joan Jett's drummer.
Oh,
and that's my, my crazy claim to fame. And that he looks at me and he goes, "You've got to get into this Porsche world and join the Porsche Club of America and do this." I'm like, okay, whatever. So I ended up going to a meeting. Well, lo and behold, that ends up being the catalyst that gets me to marry two passions together. The camera, cars. Because I've been a car guy since I was 4 years old. I'm as bad as Paul Fanner. I still have all my Matchbox. I have everything. I have the Matchbox race set. Yes, it's the worst one you could possibly have, but I still have it. I kept it under the bed for years. I have all that stuff. I could tell you anything about any car on the street, who made it, this model, that model.
We had to get rid of Paul's collection to make this studio.
Did you? Funny that I'm bringing that up. Yeah, where is that stuff now?
It's in another storage.
Right. Okay. But yeah, that becomes, I saw a model the other day. I was looking at it, I'm like, if I bring that home, my wife's just going to kill me. But that ends up being the catalyst. Buying that car.
Yeah.
Takes those two different passions that I've had all these years and pulls them together, and that ends up being what sticks for me.
Mm-hmm.
And that's lens and my passion for the automobile, my knowledge of the automobiles, knowledge of hot rods, knowledge of the Porsche world, that crazy combination, because I've done things where I work for different clients where I have gone around the country photographing significant hot rods that were painted with significant colors by a manufacturer because they want no artificial lighting. They want everything natural. And they loved, my use of locations and natural light. So you get called in for various projects. But this here is that combination of that hot rod guy in me and the Porsche world coming together. So again, this is like another, when you combine a few things, it makes things more solid, I think.
Yeah. When you first started shooting though, did you have any photographers or art that influenced you to finally get your look?
Initially, you mean for
photography?
For car photography?
Yeah.
Well, car photography, of course, Jesse Alexander, right?
Yeah.
I met Jesse. I was at a gallery in New York, downtown in Soho, and they had I happened to see that they had a small opening, and this guy, Jesse Alexander. And I was like, that's really cool. And then happy to say that he became a buddy that I could call up and talk to and sit down and have a cup of coffee with every now and then. And his work was very inspiring to me. His use of black and white. Here's a guy who kind of said yes to things too.
Yeah.
Those three careers I've had, it's just been happen chance.
Yeah.
Hey, you think you can do this? Yeah, I can do that. Let me do that. And you build on it. And if you think there's an opportunity there, any one of those could have fallen apart, right? But you just kind of say yes. And he, here's this guy who ends up in the right place at the right time, and he's got his camera, and it's like, I'll start shooting that. And he ends up becoming this iconic, motorsports photographer that had just these crazy images that everybody, relates to, and of course, when you think of Jeff Zwart and the way that he has inspired people in many ways. He inspired me when I didn't know who he was. He inspired me when I didn't know what. And then you go back and you go, oh, that was you. Oh, you were the guy that was, right? So many people had different posters and stuff that were outtakes from shoots that he did that Porsche took and said, we're going to turn this into a poster. Everybody had those posters on their wall, right?
Yeah.
So I was being inspired by people when I didn't even know it, and then you meet them later in life, because you're bumping shoulders with them. I met Jeff the first time I met him was at Sebring years ago. Everybody was going out to that front straight to get that sunset shot, and I had done it and done it and done it, and I'm in the back. I'm at like far away as you can possibly be, and nobody's there, and this golf cart comes rolling up, and out jumps Jeff, and he puts down sticks, wooden tripod with film, and he's like, and I go, Jeff, and he goes, hey, I'm Michael Ross. Hey, Michael, how you doing? And that's where I met him. What a great place to meet Jeff Zwart. And it was just a one-on-one thing, and he goes, good to see you out here. He goes, yeah. I said, yeah, I'm just trying to find something different. He goes, yeah, everybody's going to end up with the same shot out there.
Yeah.
It's always about finding that other shot and finding something else that it's going to inspire other people.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that was what a great place to meet him.
Yeah. All the good guys know to find that different spot. Like we're even on the track, everywhere. It's like you're at the same track, and somehow, like Larry Chen figures out, oh my God, he shot from there. Like, who would have thought, right?
Well, so but that's it. But like Camden Thrasher, right?
Yeah.
I remember bumping into Camden so many years ago, and he was known for like carrying around like, I've got a Canon, I've got a Nikon, I've got like 5 different types of cameras on it. It was like whatever he could borrow at the moment, And I bumped into him in Monterey, and I spotted him. I said, are you Camden? He goes, yeah. I go, cool. I said, and then in the beginning, I was like, I sent him some emails and stuff like that. And I just encouraged, I said, listen, just keep, you're blowing my mind. And I said, keep finding that different shot, that other shot. And boy, has he run with that ball, And that's a moment that, he and I still, when I see him, if I'm in the room, he comes over and says hello, and that's something, it's a real dog eat dog, lone wolf mentality out there. I've never been that guy. I've always been the guy that kind of wants, and that can be a disruptor too. I'm the guy that walks in and goes, hey, anybody need any help? People are like, what's wrong with you? It's very, people get all puffed up and stuff. I want to take all that stuff and strip that away. I'd rather be, hey, we're all here to do a job and have a good time and create some cool work. You don't have to like step on my toes and tell me, oh, that's my spot where I need to stand, or like, okay.
Yeah. Well, there's two types of guys, I think, in the trenches, when you're shooting especially at a motorsport event or an event.
Yeah. It's very, it's very territorial. And and I tend to walk away from things like that. It's just not I'd rather be, there's room for you, there's room for me,
Yeah.
We can get along.
When you're, I just want to go back to like some of this stuff.
Sure. run through here? Or something?
Yeah, like what is your like approach though? Like what's your process like when you have to shoot this car? Like where do you start from when you're approaching a car?
Well, every car has a personality. Whether it's the color, the modifications, the shape, right? What is its everything? You have to look for that personality in the car, right? And you have to consider colors, contrasts, what's going to work, what's not going to work. Am I going to use a juxtaposition, or am I going to put this in a beautiful space, or do I want something completely neutral so nothing takes anything away from this car? And that's just a gut feeling that you get after a while. You can't overthink it.
Mm-hmm.
And then sometimes it's like, what's available?
Yeah.
You fly into a position, someplace, and you go like, okay, we don't need to drive 6 hours. What can we find? Let's see what we can find in the area.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes that's the type that it'll come down to a budget and a time restraint, right? So there are different things that will dictate where you end up shooting.
Some
right?
people don't have Bruce Myers' number.
No, exactly, right? You don't always have that at the moment when you need it, right? Here, great example right here. Bissy, this is a car which is absolutely breathtaking.
Mm-hmm.
Has this flat black finish on it, and what I wanted to do, I had never been to a shop. Went to his shop, so let's go take a ride. And he had some various places that he's used to shooting at and stuff like that. And of course, I never want to shoot someplace that somebody else has already shot there. I want to find something else. And we're driving along, and out of the corner of my eye, I catch this building, and it's closed off. And I said, no, make a U-turn. Make a U-turn. And I took him around, and I had seen it was on the side of the building. It wasn't even, like if you weren't really paying attention, you would. And he's probably driven by this things thousands of times.
Right.
In fact, he said that. He says, I have never been here before. How the heck did you find this? You just rolled and put it in this totally monochromatic spot where everything is, the car just pops because it's so simple. There's nothing else taking anything away from the lines of the car.
Mm-hmm.
And we ended up with a really cool shoot. I've noticed that he's been using it a few times since,
Then.
But that's okay.
Yeah.
I got what I wanted to do. That car, I just didn't want anything it almost looks like a studio shoot.
Yeah.
And it isn't. It just happens to be
looks like
ambient
it was set
light.
up. Yeah.
Right. It's ambient light bouncing off another building that's filling the car.
Mm-hmm.
That's another thing to be aware of too. It's like, what are these little tricks, right?
Mm-hmm.
How do I find, this would be great if I had some bounce light. And like, well, use an entire building. You're thinking, I need a few lights. How about an entire white building reflecting into the thing?
Yeah.
So that's the type of thing that happens. You get lucky sometimes too.
Yeah. I love how the tones are extremely similar. I mean, I think that's what you looked at the car and then you saw the building and it's like, oh, that would.
And like any one of those shots, there's probably 50 shades of gray in that shot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, exactly.
But the car doesn't get lost.
No.
It's still prominent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What kind of gear do you use? Like the balance between artistic, like the art that you want and the technical, that's always
you have
sort
to
of
have
a conundrum.
You've got to have tools of the trade, right?
Yeah.
And not everything does everything.
Yeah.
So everybody knows I've been a Canon shooter for decades, for a long, long time. But before, when I was in the past, I have experience with 6x7, Mamiya 6x7.
Mm-hmm.
Short 4x5, 2.25 Hasselblad,
Mm-hmm.
that sort of thing. Medium format to all different formats, right? The larger. But shooting this type of stuff, you tend to run kind of light and easy. Mm-hmm. So it became a lot of 35 millimeter Canon, very reliable, shoot in the rain, shoot when it's freezing cold, drop it, pick it up again, get it dusty, take it to Bonneville, beat the heck out of it. Just, don't even look at my shutter count because it'll actually blow your mind. I take all those things that they say about well, it's good to the shutter count of so and so. No, you can go way beyond that. So I bring things in when they're like totally exhausted and falling apart.
Yeah.
But I do take care of my gear, but I punish the heck out of it too. It's not I'm not babying it at all.
Yeah.
You can't, right?
It's like your cars.
Yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
right? So it's got to do it what you need it to do, and it's got to do it right then, and it's got to be reliable. So that's the big trick, right? Now, so much traveling that I do now, how do I fit this all into like one bag and I've got to get everything into an overhead because I don't want to let my gear out of my hands, right?
Right.
So now you got to be creative that way. So was running with full cannon for a long time, and I basically, when I go into a shoot now, it's I have 5 different bodies with me.
Okay.
3 of them are Canon, mirrorless, but I also have gone over to for my prime images like this.
Mhm.
I've gone over to medium format, and I'm using the Hasselblad X system. So much bigger files,
Yeah.
much more information. It allows you to go in and pull out the blacks when you want to, shoot in darker situations that you never would have been able to shoot in before. I mean, there's a lot of things that we can do now with post-production, with Topaz and things like that, where we can gain put things back together. But I will tell you, the Hasselblad system, the color grading out of that camera will blow your mind, because you're 9 times out of 10 when you pull that out, just okay, let me download, and you look at it and you go like, you're almost exactly where you want to be. And then if you're not, it's so much easier because it's a medium format sensor. It's literally, physically larger.
Yeah.
It's gathering more information, and you have more lateral movement available to you because of the extra information that you're gathering. It is slower than I'm used to, which is cool because it makes it more intentional. Your shooting becomes far more intentional. You concentrate more.
Yeah.
And you come back with, instead of this rapid fire, oh, I got this angle, I got that angle, I got this angle, I got that. It makes you go, okay, what is the shot here? The shot is this, 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 and this. And then you go in and you knock those out and you go like, okay, we got that. We move on to the next thing. And you don't have to, I love the fact that it becomes you're more connected with it, and you're just that much more intentional with what you're doing rather than just gathering random images.
Yeah, it's more intentional, right?
Yeah, intentional.
Yeah.
And that's the thing too. I think that's the thing for a lot of people that aren't familiar with shooting for a publication or shooting for a book, a layout. It's a layout. You can make great images, but did you think about your art director?
Yeah.
Did you think about where that gutter is going to end up? If that looks like it's going to be, if you can walk away and 90% of your work looks like it could be a double-page spread, well, guess what? You've just purchased more real estate within the publications than somebody else because you took the time to understand where that gutter is going to end up. You understand negative space. So many people don't even understand what the negative space is, and that's having a place where an art director can use it for copy,
right?
For big, bold letters to be an opening piece on something,
Right.
You have to have that. I can go on for like hours about negative space and the importance of it in an image. And the worst place to learn about composition right now is Instagram.
Okay.
Because they just want you to fill the frame with the subject. It's like, that's the worst thing in the world. That's if you want to learn about composition, go see a movie.
Yeah.
See what a director did when they had this full, big, beautiful screen to play with. What did they do, right? What's going on in the corner of that frame? Why are they offset over here? And it's all meant to create an opportunity for the viewer to get involved with the image.
Yeah.
If you just fill everything, you're just like, okay, it's just in my face, right?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, it's like right in my face.
Yeah.
But if you have an opportunity to explore an image, and you have a place where your eye goes around and it goes, oh, and then you come back, and all of a sudden the viewer's engaged. And if you can get the viewer engaged, it's going to do one thing. It's going to make them stop turning the page, and it's going to make them stop swiping.
Yeah.
I love it when somebody goes, oh, wait a minute, and they got to go back. Then you've done your job.
Who are some Instagrammers that you follow that you appreciate their work?
Oh man, that's there's a lot of people. I'm stumped with that question right now. A lot of European shooters, you know, and Tim Wallace, you know, there's so many people. Here's one for you. Thorsten Weigel.
I don't know.
Look him up.
Yeah. Okay. look him up. Yeah.
Thorsten Weigel. It's just great. I've been on the phone with him. I've talked with him, and then we ended up shooting together for a thing for Opel.
Okay.
And just the coolest guy in the world. And his work is just absolutely fabulous. You know. Who else knows that name?
We'll
probably nobody in this room, right?
Yeah,
There's nobody.
No one's going like, yeah,
right.
That guy.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I got to look him up.
Yeah.
So do you think Instagram, the internet, has changed automotive photography at all?
Well, I think it's created an opportunity for a lot of people. You know, you still have to understand. It's made things messy in some places, right? It's created an opportunity for exposure for a lot of people. But still and it's made it tougher for the people that are doing it for a living. You got to understand, when it comes to motorsports, there are only a few people in that world that are making money.
Yeah.
Because there's so many people in that world that will do it just for the access, just to be standing there and be near that motor, you know, hear that motor and get that thump in your chest while they're going past you and all this stuff like that. You know, that's what's made it tough, right? But at the same time, that's all good. It's all, you know, it's competition makes you better, right?
Yep.
Makes you dig a little deeper, right? So I don't think that it's bad, because you also get inspired by so now there's all these people doing it, and why can't I look at somebody else's work and be inspired by it and go like, well, if I was inspired by somebody else's shot, then that's cool, right? Doesn't mean that they're going to take money out of my pocket. Maybe they will. I don't know if you want to talk about it from a money aspect, but I think exposure and image after image after image, you start to see things, and if it's an inspirational exchange, then I think that's good. As long as it doesn't become, you know, that, you know, it's it's a tough thing to. Where are we going with it? I don't know where it's all going to end up, right?
I don't think anyone knows.
Yeah, right. I keep trying to figure out, you know, when I'm going to get a check from Instagram, but they haven't sent me one yet.
Yeah.
But I know other people that monetize. You know, I was speaking to an artist the other day, and he's, you know, he gets all of his business through Instagram.
Yeah.
But we're at different levels and we're at different times. It's a different time in my life, right?
Yeah.
It's a different thing. You
Right.
know? Don't forget, I'm the Blade Runner now.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm, you know, what's his name in the big concrete building, and everything's kind of weird and orange outside.
Yeah. So you've played in like different mediums. You're in
Correct.
photography right now, but you did film, and you were also in music.
Yeah.
What do you think, like, these different mediums play a role for car culture in general? So we have like the internet now, and we have like books, and we have like different mediums that express car culture in general. We have events as well. What's the role of photography in car culture?
Well, the visual aspect, there's such a need. It's a sharing thing. Okay, so number one, from the street level, I share my image with you, you share your image with me. We're always looking at, it's the cars and coffee generation, right?
Yeah.
So now it's like, it's all about cars and coffee, and here's what I shot there. And so there's a visual thing. It's like, oh, those images can inspire you to go, oh, I'll go check out that. That's a cool thing. And then I go and I meet more people, right? So that's cool. At the same time, from a marketing standpoint, now the car company wants to engage the cars and coffee kind of feel to it too, right? They want to be, oh, let's do that, right? So I think there's so many things that are that they're going to latch onto from the culture that's really using their cars and maybe hot rodding their cars or turning them into outlaws, and like, maybe we should think about showing up. Maybe we'll do an unveiling of our new car at so-and-so's Cars and Coffee sometime, right? Yeah. Who knows, right? I think the manufacturers always want incredible imagery. But I think what you're seeing now is you're seeing a use of so many different types of things, from drones to motion shots to stills. What I love too, sometimes you'll see the power of a still image is still there. I love when a manufacturer or an ad campaign will be a motion thing, but every now and then they pull in a still image. That is so, I've been called in on various things to be a white glove DP, which means I don't touch any equipment. I'm there to just say, you should be here looking at it this way. This is what we want to do. And I love doing that, right? Because it doesn't matter what your camera is. It doesn't matter whether you're shooting with an RE or you're shooting with a Canon or whatever, a red camera. It all comes down to your eye. Because you have to train your eye every day. The only difference between you and me when we look at something is the eye, right? The photographer's eye or a painter, or someone that paints these things, they're going to look at the image. You ever see that little thing where they have they track the person's eye looking at an image, and the common person, I don't want to say that, but any average person would sit down and go like, oh, there's that, there's this, there's that. They'll look at 7-8 things within a frame. And then a photographer will sit down and look at 280 different points within the same image. And go, it's like the eyeballs going like crazy, right? So there's an event, people want to use that, right? So I think that there's so many different things that the marketing people, once they get their hand on it, they can use it in different ways. But when they come in every now and then and still embrace that one image, and maybe it's it's all still motion, and maybe there's just a little ripple in the water, and maybe the leaf is just going like this, but it's still motion, but it's pretty much the power of a really great image. I love that. Yeah. I love when it's almost a still image within the motion. That's another thing about giving people a moment with something, right? Yeah. Letting them be engaged with it. So,
yeah. What have you seen any like car commercials recently on or internet or TV that you thought was like shot well?
Oh, all the time. Yeah. I mean, the thing that gets me all the time now is the way that we can do these things with drones and get into imagery that we're now with all the different types of small cameras, right? Yeah. I think that's the key. Like I'll carry 5 different things for different reasons, right? I even use a little point and shoot to get in and do like really down and dirty shots and things like that. But if you start incorporating the different mountable cameras, it's finding that different angle, and we can get in and get like really cool images that we never would have thought of before, because we now have these new tools. Yeah. And I think that that's really the key these days. Is we were talking before about seeing it beforehand. Yeah. And those people that are thinking out of the box, that come in and go like, oh, I want to shoot this like this, because if I were able to get in there, and they go, okay, let's find a way to do it. Yeah. I think that's what's winning campaigns right now. Mm-hmm. Knowing how to get in there and solve a problem like that for somebody, and have them go like, whoa, I never saw that before. Yeah. I've never been that close to the wheel. I've never been that close to that. Those are the impactful, powerful images right now. Whereas I'm known for the more, I do the detail stuff, but I'm also known for like the 30,000 foot kind of
The bigger picture.
the bigger thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's space for all of it.
Yeah. When we first came out, like back in the day, about 20 years ago, when I was doing DVDs, and when we first came out with these Japanese, racing DVDs, we were probably like the first to incorporate like the foot cams. Like so you had this in-car view.
Mhm.
This was before GoPro, right?
Right, yeah,
So
yeah.
we had
Yeah,
the
right.
in-car view where we saw that.
A lot of duct tape.
Yeah, a lot of duct tape, a lot of small, like we had the lipstick cams back in the day, so
Yeah.
where you had just the lens and you had a different recording device.
Mm-hmm.
But we had a camera shooting the
feet.
the feet.
Yeah.
And here in the U.S., no one had ever seen that before, like live while it was like going on,
Right.
racing. And that was like one of the things that when we first came here and we were translating the Japanese stuff, and it was English, but everyone was raving about the foot cams because they can see these legends doing,
Right.
heel toe, just doing all these things, and they were, showing how they were initiating the drift and things like that.
Right.
So that was like a completely different perspective.
But that's exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah, right, yeah.
Finding that different perspective,
Right.
that different shot, right?
Mhm.
That different angle, that's nobody else. We were just in Germany. I was doing that project, and I climbed into the Brian Redman Porsche 9083, and I'm kneeling in the seat, and I'm shooting by the roll bar, and I'm being pulled. The guy's pulling the car on a thing called a Twingo, which
Mhm.
basically lifts up the front wheels, and it's all electronic, and it moves the car. We're probably doing 2.5 miles an hour or something like that.
Yeah.
And I've got the shutter speed slowed down, and I'm going by the shrubbery, and it looks like we're doing 80 miles an hour, but that's it, right? It's like, okay, I want this car doesn't run. We're not going anywhere. How do we make it look like it's going fast? It's about, solving problems. How do we get things? A lot of times, manufacturer, we've got this car and we got to get something done, but it really doesn't run the way you want it to. And it's about solving problems and creating great imagery and working around those things. That's the big thing. The more you do it, the more you become the problem solver.
Yeah, yeah. How do you have any? It doesn't look like you have any problems with like being motivated, but how do you continue to, stay inspired though? Like, is there anything that you do to keep the fire going, or you have absolutely no issues?
I think I'm constantly looking at things.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm always looking at other things, right?
Yeah.
I'm really into architecture.
Mm-hmm.
I was just at a film that was released last night for the first time about an architect who did a tremendous amount of work in L.A., Schindler, who a lot of people they're like, Frank Lloyd Wright? I'm like, no. It's like Neutra, Schindler, Frank Lloyd Wright. Well, but a lot of people don't even know who he was and what he did, and people think it's something completely different. I'm into that. I'm into all the different types. My mother was a painter, right?
Okay.
So I was brought up in a world where, but she didn't find painting until much later in her life.
Mm-hmm.
But I was brought up in a creative world. So I think I find inspiration from several different mediums. I don't sit there and look at photographer stuff all day.
Mm-hmm.
I look at balance and form and composition in architecture. I look at it in sculptures.
Mm-hmm.
I look at it in the movies.
Mm-hmm.
I look at it. It's everywhere you go.
Yeah.
You're constantly training your eye every day, and it's all about the way that you look at things. But don't just sit there and flip through car books all day, because you're going to find the inspiration from something completely different.
Mm-hmm.
And I think having a well-rounded awareness of different mediums and the way, I'm going to bring it up again, negative space is used, and the way textures are used, and the way light is used, and the way things come together with angles, and understanding tension and release in all different types of forms gives you a much more rounded base to pull from, so that every time you pick up that camera, you've always found something. I didn't pick it up for 5 days, so I must have been inspired 20 times between that time and this time.
I'm taking notes for sure.
I look at a guitar and I think about things like that.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a guitarist too, so I mean, I
Really?
yeah.
Are you? What do you play?
I have a Les Paul, a Gibson Les Paul.
Okay.
I have a Strat. I have a Telecaster.
Okay.
Been playing forever.
Good.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Yeah. I stopped by Norman's Rare Guitars yesterday.
I think I may have saw that on your Instagram.
I didn't buy it. I didn't buy it, honey. I didn't buy anything. I didn't buy anything. I walked out empty-handed, but I made some notes, and there might be some phone calls going up. You know?
No, good stuff. There we go. There's our
There you go.
friend Magnus. I was just there yesterday.
Mhm.
So now that you're done,
I have a crush on his dog.
Beautiful dog.
Yeah.
I got to read his book too.
Yeah.
So now that you're done with this book, what's your next project? What are you going to be working on?
So many things. It gets to be that time of year now where everything just kind of chugs down a little bit. We are, and what's happening is the response of this book is at kind of a feverish rate. I was on the phone yesterday with the publisher, and I think there may be an opportunity where two things. We may have to go into put in an order for an additional printing before we even get to Christmas.
Wow! Congrats.
Which is good.
Yeah.
But they only printed 2 books. Just kidding.
We have one. One of 2.
Which is really great. But that also gives us an opportunity to say, hey, what's going on here?
Yeah.
When something hits the market and it's getting a reaction at a feverish pitch, we know we've come with something that
You've hit something.
Well, we've hit something, and there wasn't anything out there. Yeah. And I think what's blowing my mind is that we're getting a tremendous response on the writing because we tried to make. I did I owe it all to my neighbor, who's in her 80s. And I was in this moment, every writer gets to that moment, I can't get past this thing. It's killing me. I can't, it's like, Michael, just sit down and start with it. Just text, the first thing is one keystroke starts the whole thing. And she convinced me, she says, Michael, just, you and I meet in the garage all the time. And you and I just talk, you're the greatest storyteller. You just talk for her. She goes, just go put your computer on dictate and just tell the story. And that's what really made a difference for me, because to accomplish this large thing and it really helped me. So because we never speak the way we write, right? If you look at the transcription of a conversation we're having right now, you'll be like, oh, what? Oh, but the point comes across. The key thing was getting the point down. And then you go back in and you go, okay, we need to fill in these words. We need to be that's going to make us work instead of and it really helped me so much. And that's what really got this thing done, So, but the word that's coming back that people really appreciate the fact that it's very conversational. And I owe that to her, and she's a sweetheart. So, anyway, that's one thing that we're getting that positive response. But the other thing is when you take a book like that and we've kind of tapped into a vein that wasn't there. And we're saying it in a way that people didn't expect it to be said about this whole thing about, saying the first Porsche was an outlaw. Now, all of a sudden, it broadens the audience a little bit more, right? Now it's like, if you look at it, we're kind of defining it. It's been right under your nose all this time, But I think that's the thing where it's been on there everybody's noses. But I think that my hot rod background and being brought up in California as a kid and understanding hot rods gave me just a different angle to come at. Maybe that's what just gave me a different background that made me look at it a little bit differently and be able to come out and say that. Now, does that translate into more books like this, or does it translate into other opportunities? We don't know, Yeah. So there's things like that. I never know what I'm shooting. I get phone calls that are like, what? I recently started shooting hydrogen plants. I know you're looking at me like I'm like a crazy man right now, but if you go in there, so I'm constantly using architecture in my work.
Exactly. Yeah.
Constantly. Yeah. I'm known for that. And their architecture within their facilities are all metal,
Yeah.
glass, plexiglass, big shiny surfaces,
A lot of negative space.
negative space, places for Michael to play. And in fact, the client that called me up was someone from the automotive world who had transitioned into this other thing. And she said, she goes, Michael, I'm like, I don't get, why are you calling me? You know, for this, you'll get it, you'll understand it. And as soon as I walked into a place, she just looked at me. She goes, you get it? I go, I get it. And, you know, so, but I've got some other things I'm doing with people. I love shooting people. Photographing people is another passion that I've always had. I've photographed a lot of rock stars through the day. So I've got some of that stuff coming up.
Cool.
And,
you should make that into a book.
We could do that.
Yeah.
Well, I did a book. The first book I did with Tom Cotter was called Rockin' Garages, where I photographed famous musicians with their cars and motorcycles.
Oh, okay.
So I've shot, you know, from Billy Joel to Kenny Wayne Shepherd to John O. That's where I met John O. Shooting him. Crazy story with him. The first time I met him, I met him at he was playing at some little club, and I met him in the afternoon. He says, well, we'll go out and shoot in the afternoon. So I showed up early and did some location scouting, and then he comes rolling in. He says, what do you want to do? And I said, you're either going to love me or you're going to hate me. And he says, what do you mean? I said, I found a great spot. You're either going to love it or hate it. He says, what is it? I said, I found an abandoned luncheonette not 5 miles from here. He goes, what? I mean, the first album was called Abandoned Lunch. The title was Abandoned Luncheonette. So first time I shot him, I took him to an abandoned luncheonette and photographed him.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
Yeah. So that was the name of their first album. So, and they had a song called that too. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah. So
that's cool.
So I have done that. I wouldn't mind doing more of it.
Yeah.
In fact, I just I shot in the spring. I shot some stuff with John for Christophorus magazine. Went to his home and photographed him and his wife Amy. Sweet people. Just a really, really cool experience. And at the same time, I shot him for the book too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. That worked out.
Yeah, it worked out well. Yeah.
So Michael, we ask everyone, all our guests, the same question as we wrap up this podcast.
I was young. I needed the money.
The question is, what's your creative drive?
My creative drive, it doesn't stop. I don't know where what's my creative drive? My creative drive is to continually go out and create the best work I can possibly create and make it look different, and to continually work on and master what has become my signature. Every photographer, every artist, whether they're an actor, a sculptor, an architect, creates, if they're lucky enough, they find what their signature is, the thing that they're known for. When someone can walk up to you and say, I knew that was yours before I saw the credit. That's my drive, is to continually master my own signature so that my work stands by itself. It comes back to the Blade Runner thing, right?
Yeah.
Nobody knows, very few people know who he is, but they can look at the work and go like, and then they make the connection.
Yeah.
Right? It's about doing the best work you possibly can and engage people. If I can engage people and inspire other people, that's a positive thing for me.
Yeah.
And I'm always about being positive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, this book will definitely have a positive effect on a lot of people, I think.
Thank you. I hope it does.
Congratulations on the success and finishing this book. I mean, it's a beautiful book. I'm going to go through this for sure.
Enjoy it.
Yeah.
And my wife's still talking to me. I keep saying that. She's she was a great proofreader at the beginning, and then she was like, "Babe, I'm done." You got to
just hire someone.
But that's that's the thing is you have an incredible team. There's so many people that are a team here that you end up working with that you don't. There's designers. Cindy Lown was the designer of the book that laid everything out. You've got all these other people that took care of like fact checking and are there mistakes? Sure, there's always some little things that pop up. That you have 20 people look at the thing. There's always something that somebody misses.
Yeah.
But to have this incredible team of people working behind you, Zach Miller, from Motor Books, working with me hand in hand, getting through things and making sure we had things right. That team of people, it requires, imagery, everything.
Mm-hmm.
You can't do everything yourself. Yeah. If you find the right team of people, you can make some really cool stuff.
Yeah, it's a team effort, right?
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah. So Porsche Outlaws, Michael Allen Ross, go pick it up, guys. So Michael, how do people follow you, get in touch with you? Check out your work.
The trick for me was there are 8 billion Michael Rosses.
Okay.
So that's why years ago I started using Michael Allen Ross. Now the only tricky thing is it's ALAN.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people want to put 2 L's in there. So Instagram, Michael Allen Ross. If you Google my name, Michael Allen Ross, it comes up everywhere. You'll see the good and the bad and the ugly with it. The book is available anywhere that you can find a book. Mm-hmm. You can go to your local store where they're overwhelmed with the fact of how many independent little mom and pop bookstores have been placing orders for the book, which we love to hear.
That's great.
You can go to any place you can find a book. You can find the book, and they'll get it.
Is it online as well?
It's online. You can. There's a Kindle version of it.
Okay.
Apparently, it's very popular in the UK right now.
All right.
So who knows? Maybe I'll have to work on my my British accent for the next one.
Yeah.
It's also being transcribed or not transcribed. Translated into German.
Oh, okay. Nice.
After the first of the year, it'll be available in German as well. So that, who knows, maybe I'll do a book signing at the Porsche Museum. Who knows?
Yeah.
That would be fun, So it's available all over the place, and just, you can find me just, I'm out there.
Yeah, you're out there. Okay.
Put in Michael Allen Ross. Yeah. I'm gonna come up.
All right. Yeah. Well, Michael, thanks for being on The Creative Drive.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming all the way down to Irvine.
Yeah.
Appreciate you being here, man. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Really great experience. Thank you.
Thanks for watching and listening to The Creative Drive, where we offer listeners a candid look into the minds of automotive creators and their journeys. The Creative Drive is available on all podcast platforms, and we have a bunch of awesome guests lined up for you guys, so please subscribe so you don't miss any episodes. If you're interested in partnering with us, or if you have any feedback, please email us at podcasts@racer.com. That's podcasts with an S at racer.com. The Creative Drive is produced by Racer Studios. Thanks to my producer, Molly Binks, creative director, George Tamayo, Brian Conzone, and it's edited by Andrew Snyder. I'm your host, Taro Koki. Thanks for watching again, and we'll see you soon.